The LA Kings get lots of good Kevin in a great win over the Penguins to start their 6-game road trip. And Corey Perry, whether you like it or not, continues to deliver. We'll get into all that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com, and you'll win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the past 30 years. Also one of the co-hosts of Locked On NHL Game Night, a nightly podcast and YouTube show that wraps up the night in the NHL, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Well, the LA Kings played game number 16 of the NHL season, coming off a disappointing 5-2 loss against the Florida Panthers. Disappointing mostly because the Kings had just beaten the Winnipeg Jets in their previous game, 3-0, for one of their better wins of the year, and we're hoping that they would build off of that win. That wasn't the case. Now the Kings were starting a 6-game road trip in Pittsburgh against a surprising Penguins team that's been one of the best teams in the East so far this season. Well, the Kings started off well in this game, got the forecheck going, but unfortunately found themselves down 1-0, allowing the first goal of the game. But the Kings do respond and tie it up 1-1 after one. Pittsburgh would score the lone goal of the second period, but LA would score the final 2 goals of the game in the third period and skate off with a solid 3-2 win. As far as the game stats in this one, Kings win at 3-2. Shots on goal favored Pittsburgh 33-27. Special teams, the Penguins were 1 for 2 on the power play. The Kings were 1 for 4. Faceoffs were identical, 50% to 50%. The Kings won 27 of 54. The Penguins won 27 of 54. Hits favored Pittsburgh 19-9. Block shots favored the Penguins 17-6. Big takeaway from this one is not only did the Kings score 2 goals in the third period to take the lead, but with about 8 minutes left in the game, they also didn't sit on that lead. Now, they didn't score again, but it wasn't just about protecting that lead. It was about playing the same kind of game that got them that 3-2 lead. They were disciplined, taking no penalties in the third period. This is against, by the way, the number 1 power play in the NHL. I guess maybe the only criticism I would have of what the Kings did in the third period was minor criticism. Corey Perry and Adrian Kempe both had shots at empty nets to ice the game and missed. But all in all, great third period for the Kings. A solid win for LA. Kings get their first win of the season when entering the third period trailing. They had been 0-3-3 at that point. And the Kings improved to 6-1-2 on the road, one of the best road records in the NHL. Those 6 wins are tied for the second most in the league. So a great start for this road trip. Great win for the Kings. Now the question is, will they build on it? Something they didn't do in that really good home win over the Winnipeg Jets. They will hopefully at least play another solid game, regardless of the result, and not take a step back. But we'll see. They've got a game in Montreal on Tuesday against another very, very good team. We'll give you a few details on that coming up a little bit later. As for this win over Pittsburgh, Jim Hiller said afterwards, quote, "We wanted that one. We were in and out for the first 40 minutes. I didn't think we gave them a lot. We didn't create much. It was kind of a back and forth, muddly," he called it. He says, "So we really had to decide after 2, we're down by 1 on the road, if we have the energy to come out and really go for it." And that's what happened. We went for it and we were rewarded. You don't always get rewarded. We haven't been rewarded at home enough, but you love it when your guys put in the extra effort and get rewarded. End quote. And I think one of the big reasons why the Kings got rewarded was special teams play. And special teams have not been great for the Kings so far this year. And the story from this game against Pittsburgh was mostly good when it comes to special teams. Now, we mentioned that the Kings, we're talking about the game stats. The Kings did have a power play goal And they did give up a power play goal on 4 opportunities against. Again, it was against the number 1 ranked power play unit in the NHL. I would actually consider that a win for the Kings, basically being even in the special teams battle when it's all said and done. Also, the Kings did not give up a shorthanded chance, much less a shorthanded goal, which has been an issue so far this season. They did have a shorthanded chance of their own. Alex Laferriere, Quentin Byfield, Byfield with the finishing chance on a nice pass from Laferriere. Couldn't finish it, but good save by Pittsburgh's rookie netminder who made his NHL debut in this one. I was a little worried about that because sometimes you get a very excited rookie goalie in there. Maybe he plays over his head in his NHL debut. Maybe his teammates really play well around him, wanting to get him that win, but wasn't the case, fortunately, in this one. As for the Kings' power play goal, nothing spectacular here, and you could even say it was a lucky goal, but I would say it was a fortunate goal because the Kings, though, did their job. Anze Kopitar winning a faceoff cleanly, goes out of the zone, but Quentin Byfield gets it, carries it back in. They set it up quickly. Kopitar shoots from a bad angle on the goal line, and it goes just off of defenseman's stick and deflected just enough to get into the net past the rookie netminder. Now, Corey Perry was doing his thing, the shark, I want to call him, circling around that net, just kind of being that presence. I'm sure that got the attention of that rookie goalie. He probably thought the pass was going through and he was going to have to be moving, to get there if the pass did get through. And as he's moving, it gets deflected on net and goes in. So even Corey Perry, when he's not scoring, I think does have that positive effect for being around the net. But, it's a lucky goal, but it's also about getting the puck into dangerous areas, and good things happen when you do that. Now, it wasn't textbook, but again, all in all, matching power play goals against Pittsburgh, I thought, was a win for the Kings. I would say of their 4 power play opportunities, the Kings had 2 good power plays. And if you watch the game, it was pretty clear the Kings had a set strategy of what they wanted to do in this game. And that was get points to the puck, get traffic in front, and fire the puck through. Adrian Kempe had multiple shots from the point on net. Kevin Fiala had a couple of points from the point on net. And that's power play 101. That is the most basic strategy you can have on the power play. And I don't have any issue with that strategy at all. But I do wonder why, if that is going to be the strategy for the Kings going forward, there's no need to have that 5 forward power play unit. You've got Drew Doughty, you've got Brandt Clark. If you want somebody at the point that can fire shots on goal, those 2 guys can do that as well, if not better, than Adrian Kempe and Kevin Fiala. Plus, if you have Doughty and Clark out there, then you have guys like Kempe and Fiala in better positions to score than being at the point. So I had mentioned in the previous game, I know other Kings fans have brought this up as well, that it's time to move off of the 5 forward power play unit. And again, if you're going to do that, it seems to make sense. If you're going to have the strategy the Kings showed in this game, it would seem to make a lot more sense to have Drew Doughty and Brandt Clark running those 2 power play units rather than guys like Kevin Fiala and Adrian Kempe. So again, no issue with the strategy as far as what the Kings were doing. It certainly was effective for at least 1 goal in this one. But again, if that's the strategy going forward, let's get the defensemen out there to be the quarterbacks in the power play unit, have those point shots. And then, of course, if something goes wrong, you've got a defenseman back there to play defense. So we'll see about that going forward. One of the other big storylines for the Kings has been taking too many penalties. And as I mentioned, Pittsburgh came into this game with the number 1 power play unit in the NHL. Only 2 minor penalties in this one for the LA Kings. Cody Ceci had a trip. Brandt Clark had a hooking penalty. Again, 2 penalties a game. That's, I think, reasonable to expect. But again, no penalties taken in the third period. The Kings were disciplined. I also think that goes into how the Kings played in the third period, right? The cliche, you're on your toes, you're not on your heels, you're offensive, you're not defending, although the Kings have taken a lot of offensive zone penalties this year. But I think that was also part of the story as to why, the Kings were so good in the third period They were playing offensive, they were on the attack. And when you're like that, typically you don't see penalties being taken. So I think that was also a good job by the Kings in that regard to help them stay out of the box by attacking and being in the offensive zone for most of the game. We saw a lot of good Kevin in this one against the Penguins, and Corey Perry keeps rolling along. That is next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. You just realized your business needs to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs. Put your post at the top of the page to help you reach the right candidates faster. If it's been, that you're in a tough spot, you need to hire right away, the pressure's on, and every day without that person is a setback. It's exactly why Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. And now you can just speed up that hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit by going to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. Let's get to some of the individual performances in this Kings 3-2 win over the Penguins. I wanted to look at the starting lineup in this one. Warren Foegele was back for the LA Kings. So the Kings, even though the lineup is not exactly what we thought it would be for the start of the season, we did have all of the Kings players in this lineup that we thought we would have from the start of the season. We still had Joel Armia on that top line. We still had Andrei Kuzmenko on the third line, and Warren Foegele inserted on the fourth line with Alex Turcotte and Corey Perry. Now, things would change a bit during this game. Corey Perry would be moved to the third line in place of Andrei Kuzmenko, who basically got benched in the third period, and Warren Foegele saw time on the top line in place of Joel Armia with Anze Kopitar and Adrian Kempe. That was in the third period with the Kings playing some of their best hockey. So interesting strategy in game from Jim Hiller. And of course, Darcy Kuemper was back in net in this one after getting the previous game off, and Anton Forsberg getting the start. We'll start with the goaltender, Darcy Kuemper. I thought he was on his game right away. You could tell not a lot of movement in net with Darcy Kuemper. I thought it was noticeable in his last win against the Jets, even though ironically he had a shutout, but he was kind of all over the place. He didn't seem calm or set in his net. Got the job done for sure, but you could tell in this game that Darcy Kuemper was on right from the start. He did a great job with his rebound control. He was in position throughout, just in the right place at the right time. Now, the first goal that he allowed was a tap-in goal, a puck through the crease and right in front of the net. Unfortunately, that one, Drew Doughty gets beat. And it wasn't Drew Doughty's fault that the puck was able to end up in a dangerous area. But when it was all said and done, it's a one-on-one battle between him and a guy named Tommy Novak, who frankly is just a guy. And Novak got position on him, and Drew didn't tie up his stick, and he was able to tap it in. So he just got to do better, frankly. Those are players that are in very dangerous spots. You've got to tie up that stick. It's easier said than done, but in the end, you have to do it. Darcy Kuemper, to me, does not get support from his teammates in that first goal scored against. The second goal was in the dying seconds of a Pittsburgh power play in the second period. Penguins player gets a shot off from the slot. He beat Kuemper 5-hole, but it was a shot from a dangerous area. So I'm not going to be too hard on Darcy on that one. I will say it is so infuriating to me when the other team scores a power play goal in the final seconds of a power play, because you do all that hard work, you expend all that energy, and within a couple of seconds of you getting to the finish line and killing off the penalty, they score. It is so demoralizing, so frustrating, and unfortunately that was the case for the Kings in this one. I will say in that third period, though, Darcy Kuemper was strong. The defense was strong. He did have one really nice pad save on Brian Rust, who was set up beautifully by Sidney Crosby. Beautiful pad save by Darcy Kuemper. Kings were down 2-1 at that point. That save obviously gives the Kings a chance to come back, tie it, and eventually get the win. So another very solid performance from Kings goalie Darcy Kuemper. Speaking of solid performances, how about Kevin Fiala? I thought early on he was way more noticeable and active than he normally is. Also was even engaged defensively, which is a great sign. I've said about Kevin before, he always looks like he's hustling, but a lot of times nothing really positive results from it. He's just kind of flying around out there. That wasn't the case in this game. He got the Kings going late in the first period. He had a gorgeous stick handling move through a defender who literally fell down because he was deked out of his skates, and Fiala drew a hooking call on Sidney Crosby, and the Kings scored their first power play goal, the first goal of the game. After Fiala drew that penalty, he drew another interference penalty in the second period, and I think that was just about him being active. The player basically cross-checked him away from the play, but I think, kind of wanting to let him know they were paying attention to him, and he kind of did a little bit more than he wanted it to. But I think that was, again, Kevin was active. He was being noticed, and the defenseman went a little overboard on hitting him on that one. But on the goal that he scored, Kevin Fiala scored the game-winning goal in this one. He takes a Drew Doughty pass from along the boards, skates it into the zone, and he makes a gorgeous move right around Penguins veteran defenseman Erik Karlsson, and then skillfully through the crease and then into the top of the net. A great finish by Kevin Fiala. So he gets a goal and an assist in this game. He's now tied for the team lead with 7 goals, 7 points on the year, tied for second on the team. This is the type of game that makes you always want more from Kevin Fiala. Not more in this game. He was great in this game, but the other games where he's just kind of out there. And frankly, it's why he's not an elite player in the league. He has elite skills. He's a very good player. But if he could do things like this more often than not, not even the greatest players have, games like this night in and night out. But they do have them a lot more often than we see from Kevin Fiala. We see this from Kevin maybe a couple of times a month. And it's that consistency which separates good from great. So hopefully we see a lot more of this from Kevin Fiala. He was exceptional in this one, and was the star of the game for the Kings. Also picked up his 500th career point with that game-winning goal. And afterwards, head coach Jim Hiller said about Kevin Fiala, quote, "Him and I talked before the game, and we knew, both of us understood that he would have to have a good game for us to win. So it's great to see when you deliver, when you say, get me out there and I'll deliver, and you get out there and you deliver." I think he played over 23 minutes. It's pretty easy to keep putting him back out there. What a game. What a game. Deliver. That's the part I like. You say, get me out there, I'm going to deliver, and you do it. End quote. Corey Perry. Are you on board with Corey Perry yet? I have admitted I am, but it would be hard not to at this point for anyone, because he's been amazing. A goal and an assist in this game. He tied it up in the third period. Interesting, like I said, out on the Deneau line with Trevor Moore and Philip Deneau. Trevor Moore entered the zone on a 3-on-2, actually passed it to Cody Ceci, who had jumped up in the play, and then he left a drop pass for Perry, who scored on a nice wrist shot. For Corey Perry, he now has 11 points in 10 games with the Kings, 7 goals and 4 assists. He's tied with Kevin Fiala for the Kings' goal-scoring lead. Kings are 6-2-2 in games in which Corey Perry has played in. And again, interesting move by Jim Hiller to put Perry on that third line with Deneau and Moore. You would think down by a goal at the time when he did it, that Kuzmenko would be the guy you'd want to keep out there, because he's as great as Corey Perry has been, you would think Kuzmenko is the more dynamic offensive threat. But certainly you can't argue with the results that happened from that move from Jim Hiller, who said afterwards about Corey Perry, quote, "We've got to talk about Corey. I don't think anybody expected him to come in and play 14, 15 minutes a night and any of this stuff. It's just really, really impressive, and he makes it look easy. I don't know how he does it. I just don't. He's got tremendous hockey sense and soft hands, but he just makes the game somehow look pretty easy. He's done it his whole career, but he's doing it now. The way he's doing it, it's really nice." End quote. And that was Jim Hiller on Corey Perry. Andre Kopitar, second straight game with a goal for the captain after going the first 14 games of the season without one. For Andre Kopitar, career point number 1,286. He's now 22 points away from passing Marcel Dion to become the LA Kings' all-time leading scorer. Going to talk a little bit more about Andre Kopitar and what was likely his final trip to Pittsburgh coming up in a minute. Quentin Byfield did not have any points in this game, and he's not playing bad hockey. And he did some really good things in this game. Had a great defensive play to deny Sidney Crosby a grade A scoring chance in the second period. Almost finished on a 2-on-1 shorthanded with Alex Ferrier. But we've talked about Q taking the next step. And it can't just be about good games for Quentin Byfield. The production has to be there too. And that specifically means scoring goals. He's now gone 12 games without a goal. And if he's going to take that next step, if he's going to turn into a really special hockey player, he needs to have the production to go along with all the other things he's doing well now. So again, I don't think he's playing bad hockey. I don't think anyone would say, boy, Quentin Byfield really needs to step his game up necessarily. But if he's going to take that next step, if he's going to be a really special player, that part of his game has to be a part of it. It has to be being able to finish scoring chances. And unfortunately, right now, he's not. He's playing good hockey, but that part of his game has to be there if he's going to be that player the Kings ultimately hope that he will be. Did want to mention Warren Foegele back in the lineup after missing 5 games due to that arm injury. I thought he played well, didn't have any points, but didn't show any effects or signs of that injury at all. Alex Turcotte took a hit and he went headfirst into the boards in the second period. With Alex, you always kind of hold your breath with those hits. Fortunately, did not miss a shift and looked fine in the game. Some final overall stats for LA. You had Kevin Fiala, Corey Perry, Anze Kopitar scoring goals. Perry, Fiala, Alex Ferrier, Trevor Moore, Cody Ceci, and Drew Doughty all had assists. Kevin Fiala led the team in shots on goal with 7. Drew Doughty led the team in block shots with 3. LaFerriere and Moore led the team in hits with 2 each. As I mentioned with the quote from Jim Hiller, Kevin Fiala led the team in ice time, 23 minutes, 19 seconds. That was 3 more seconds than Drew Doughty. I'm almost positive that is the first time that a forward has led the Kings in ice time in a game so far this season. Alex Ferrier was the Kings' best faceoff man. He won 6 of 8 faceoffs. Great to see him improving in that part of his game. Anze Kopitar won 9 of 15. Did the Penguins snub Anze Kopitar? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score the next bucket to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bet into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, my favorite part of the show is to give out the 3 crowns, because that means the Kings have won. Instead of the 3 stars, I decided to do this. So who gets the 3 crowns for the LA Kings in this one? Pretty obvious, I think, for the first 2 in this one. Kevin Fiala, goal, game-winning goal, and an assist. In this one, he is getting a crown for sure. Corey Perry with a goal and an assist gets a crown as well. I thought there were a lot of different candidates who could have gotten that 3rd crown in this one, but I'm going to go with Darcy Kemper. Just another very, very solid performance in net. 31 saves in all. So Kevin Fiala, Corey Perry, and Darcy Kemper wearing crowns after this victory over the Pittsburgh Penguins. Probably the last ever head-to-head meeting between Kings legend Anze Kopitar and Pittsburgh Penguins legend Sidney Crosby. Both were drafted in the same year. Crosby number 1 overall in 2005. Kopitar was 11th overall. And by the way, good job by the Kings of holding Crosby without a point in this game. He's been one of the top goal scorers in the NHL so far this season. But unless the Penguins and Kings meet in the Stanley Cup final, and I'm all for that, this was the last meeting between Crosby and Kopitar, Hall of Famers to be, and that was a bit of a storyline kind of going into this game. As far as I know, there was no video tribute to Kopitar on the scoreboard, and I did see a message on X to me and a few others from @surfhockey, and he said, quote, "Am I the only one that and is mad that Crosby didn't lead a line to congratulate Kopitar. I think Ovi will. We better not have a handshake line for Sid in LA when he retires. And that was from @surfhockey on X. What he's talking about, and I assume he saw this last year. Marc-Andre Fleury, longtime NHL goalie and a kind of a beloved guy throughout the NHL, announced he was retiring. And after a game against the Washington Capitals, Alexander Ovechkin told his teammates, "We're all going to line up and we're going to shake Marc-Andre Fleury's hand." Super classy, very respectful, awesome scene, but it is very rare. I don't know that the play. They don't. There's a lot of great hockey traditions. This one is not. I don't know that this one is there, so to speak. It's like a very unique individual thing that is done rarely. So I don't really. It would have been very nice for Sidney Crosby to do this. I will say I think the Ovechkin did it after the Capitals beat Fleury, I think, if I remember correctly. But I don't take this as a slight for Anze Kopitar. Again, it would have been really cool. It would have been really nice. Would have been very classy. But it's not something that's done very often. So it wasn't like, and the video tribute, some teams do it, some teams don't. So I personally didn't think it was any kind of a slight towards the Penguins or Sidney Crosby towards Anze Kopitar. They did meet. There's video of it from the LA Kings X account that Kopitar and Crosby did meet after the game. They did shake hands. They exchanged jerseys with each other. So look, the respect is there from Sidney Crosby to Anze Kopitar. So don't think it was any kind of slight for Anze Kopitar. Would have been nice, but we'll see. We'll see if Ovechkin does it when the Kings play the second to last game of this road trip in DC against Alexander Ovechkin and company. Up next, the Kings are taking on a very young, talented, up-and-coming Montreal Canadiens team. That'll be on Tuesday. Montreal is tied for the most points in the Eastern Conference with 22. They lead the Atlantic Division with a 10-3-2 record. So it will not be easy for the Kings to build off of this win over Pittsburgh. But I would say at least do not take a step back. If they play a very similar game than they did against Pittsburgh, and maybe it doesn't come out their way at the end of the scoreboard, maybe they lose in a shootout or overtime or something like that, I still think that is positive. I still think that could be progress, but do not take a step back. I know they're playing a really good team on the road. Kings, though, have been a good road team. That's a great win over Pittsburgh. Again, don't take a step back. If you can build on it, that is the best scenario, but at least don't take a step back. Keep playing this kind of hockey. Good win for the Kings. We'll see what they can do in Montreal against the Canadiens on Tuesday. Thank you for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen today. For your second listen, check out a show that I'm also a part of, Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until the Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL, on YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. For you everydayers, those who listen and watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up, our next show will be after the Kings-Canadiens game, recapping that one. If you want to get an email in to this show for any time, for any reason, including our fan feedback shows at the end of the week, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. You're always welcome to post your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section as well. We'd love for you to stay connected with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you next time. And as always, go Kings, go.